So, good afternoon. As you can see, I'm at the tank filler, and I got the car on jack stands, which means we have to go underneath there. And these are the jack stands I use, which have this locking pin in here. So in the case that this snaps out, this cannot come down. And I also have the jack stand underneath it to cover it in the case that one of them fails. Anyway, you have probably heard the sound, and I have no clue now if this is going to work or not. Choof. That's how this normally sounds, and this is vacuum in the tank system. And for this to work properly, so your interior or the outside of the car is not going to smell like fuel, there is a vent system in the tank. And then let's see where we are, right here. And this is right here. This is a valve which goes to the top of the tank, and the hose connects here to a line right here, and that goes to the front, and we will go there in a second. This valve has two functions. It opens up when pressure builds up inside the tank. It will automatically purge this into this line, going all the way to the front. And then from there, the other way it works is when there's a vacuum applied here, it will regulate the amount of vacuum inside your tank, sucking all the fuel fumes out. Let me get back out of here. Let's see. Yeah. So this line runs now all the way to the front, and it winds up in a canister which sits behind here, a charcoal canister. And that is the valve here, which connects to the vacuum on the bottom of your throttle with the big plastic hose. And this is a switch, a vacuum switch basically. So when you apply a vacuum on the front side, it will open this and it applies vacuum to the canister, which sits in the wheel well right behind here, back here. It's hard to see because it is covered. And from there, it goes all the way back to the other valve. And the control vacuum line goes over here to your black switch. And that vacuum is activated at 50 degrees Celsius, and the vacuum supply is hooked up to the throttle body, to the lower one of the two ports, which means it is getting a vacuum, or it creates a vacuum at about, I would say 1200 RPM, 1500 RPM. Now, when you drive at 2000, 3000 RPM, this system here is basically open, and it applies the vacuum all the way through the valve back to the tank. And when this valve gets stuck, then that can suck your tank together. And now we have a new valve, even though mine seems to be still working, but after all these years, I figured we're going to replace it, and you can see it. Now I want to show you this on my computer here real quick. The parts I had to look up for this was a little bit tricky. We have the Mercedes-Benz software going here. And as you can see, can I get this further? No. We have part number A12347000393, which is the original part for the 560, for the US version, the 126.039 560 SEL USA. So you can see I can type in a part number here, and that will tell me all the cars that part number was actually used in. So I got a pretty good cost reference, and then you can see that this was also used on the 124 and on the 201 for these particular countries. Now, Mercedes-Benz discontinued the A123 part number, and they didn't put a replacement number in there. And then I looked around, and I saw 124. So if they're using this on a 124, then I can use one with a 124 part number. And sure enough, it is A124 476 0432, made in Germany, and was made August 5th of 2020. So it's a year and a half, not quite a year and a half old. And that came from MB USA, but this is actually one of those parts which came from Mannheim, from the central warehouse. And we didn't have to wait very long. And we got this in. So when you look this up now on the internet, this part number here, then you will find out that this can be used in a 190, 260, 300 CE, 500 SEL, and you can see the model years. So from 84 to 93. These parts are interchangeable. And this is what I'm finding a lot, is when you can find a part which was discontinued by Mercedes-Benz, you probably can find one from the same time area. In this case, it is the 80s, which had changed from a 123 chassis, where this used to use on. The first three numbers is either engine or chassis. So if you have a part with starting with 117, that would indicate that was a part for the 117 engines, period. Usually A means automotive, automobile, 124, and that means it was a chassis related or body style related part. So the original one was 123, which originated out of the 70s. That was then probably a little bit modified, and instead of being black, they're now white, and so far and so on, but they're functioning exactly the same. So when you look at the manuals, and you look, say, like for 190E, for the closed fuel emissions, fuel exhaust, no, what do they call that? The fuel evaporation system. Yeah, closed fuel evaporation system. That's what that is called. You will see that the values when they open and close the millibar is exactly the same between the 124 part and the 123. That's a little bit cumbersome to kind of locate a part, but it is a way of locating a part. And if this part seizes or it doesn't close properly anymore, so you have higher vacuum on the on the side which goes to the engine, then this valve will actually close. It's 30 millibar. I think that's about where that is at. So the vacuum is not getting you don't get too much vacuum in the tank. Especially when you drive for a long time, people think it's the fuel pumps. Now, this is actually the pressure regulator on how much pressure can be in the tank when it is hot. And there's, say like your tank is half full, it will expand out from the heat. That will open up at 60 millibar in this direction, venting everything into the charcoal canister. And when you start the car, it will maintain a vacuum of 30 millibar, even though you get a much higher vacuum from your engine, because that valve is open and the thermal valve is open, the thermal switch is open, everything is open. You would draw a tremendous amount of vacuum. And you usually can hear that when you open your filler up, your tank cap up, and you get this sound. That means you have way too much vacuum in your system, and this is this valve here in the front valve, which no longer properly operate. There is also a pressure valve inside the carbon canister. There's a third pipe coming out, which nothing is attached to. There's a little hood over it, and that one will, if the vacuum gets too high, in the vacuum line will just dump the whole thing. That's basically on how that maintains itself at the same level. So if you have too much vacuum in your tank, expressed by removing the filler cap, and then it goes, makes that tremendous sound, and you can really see this rushing in. What you just heard is about the normal vacuum which would be expected. If it is much larger than that, there's two fault areas. One can be the carbon canister itself, that vent valve, the pressure regulating valve inside the carbon canister is not good anymore, but most likely it is going to be those. It could be both after that many years. In this case here, on my end here, this is the sticky valve I got here, and I'm replacing that first before I'm going to put a new carbon canister in there. If this maintains the vacuum at the same level, no matter what the tank filling is, how full or how empty the tank is, tank fill level is, then we can actually don't have to replace the charcoal canister. The charcoal canister usually doesn't go bad. It's activated charcoal in there. That's really all it is. And it just sucks up all the fumes and binds them. They may have to be replaced. The original ones were metal. The later ones metal enclosures, and the later ones were plastic. So it could be either one of the two. Well, I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to post this video here in a little while, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe Christmas Day or after on Sunday. I don't know yet. We will see. But I'm pretty sure that might be of interest. Part number here again is A1244760432. $35 from Mercedes-Benz. You have a great day. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and a Happy New Year.